Welcome to Farmtips Diary. In just 1 century, farming transformed from a world powered by horses and human hands into an industry guided by satellites, data streams, and artificial intelligence. Today, we're exploring how the past 100 years rewrote the rules of food production and what those changes mean for the next century ahead. The age of muscle and soil. Picture a farm in 1925. The sun rises over fields, worked by families who wake before dawn. Horses pull plows through heavy soil. Every seed is planted by hand. Every weed is pulled by fingers calloused from years of labor. This is farming as humanity had known it for thousands of years. In the early 20th century, agriculture was synonymous with back-breaking work. A single farmer could cultivate maybe 20 to 30 acres with the help of draft animals. Oxen and horses were not just tools, but partners in survival. The rhythm of the seasons dictated everything. Planting, tending, and harvesting consumed entire communities. Children left school during harvest time because feeding a family required every available hand. Crop yields were modest and unpredictable. A farmer might harvest 20 bushels of wheat per acre if the weather cooperated. If it didn't, families went hungry. There was no safety net, no backup plan. Drought meant disaster. Pests could wipe out an entire season's work overnight. And because farms were small and isolated, knowledge spread slowly. A technique that worked in one valley might take decades to reach the next. This era was defined by limits, physical limits of human and animal strength, knowledge limits born from isolation, and time limits because every task from sunrise to sunset was manual. Farming fed communities, but just barely. Most of the world's population worked the land just to produce enough food to survive. The mechanical revolution and the green awakening. Then came the machines. The tractor arrived not as a luxury, but as a revolution on wheels. By the 1940s and 1950s, tractors were replacing horses across Europe and North America. Suddenly, one person could do the work of 10. Fields that took weeks to plow could be turned in days. Mechanization didn't just make farming easier, it fundamentally changed what was possible. Combined harvesters, mechanical planters, and irrigation systems followed. Farms began to scale. Where a family once worked 30 acres, they could now manage hundreds. This shift liberated human labor. People left farms for cities, fueling industrial growth. But it also meant fewer people were responsible for feeding more mouths. Then, in the mid-20th century, the Green Revolution arrived like a tidal wave. Scientists like Norman Borlaug developed high-yielding crop varieties that could produce 2 or 3 times more grain per acre. These weren't just better seeds, they were engineered for shorter growing seasons, disease resistance, and responsiveness to fertilizers. Countries like India and Mexico, facing famine, adopted these varieties and saw harvests double within years. But the Green Revolution was more than seeds. It was a package deal. New wheat and rice varieties required synthetic fertilizers to unlock their potential. Nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium became the holy trinity of modern agriculture. Farmers who once relied on animal manure and crop rotation now had access to concentrated nutrients that could be spread across vast fields in hours. Crop protection chemicals arrived alongside fertilizers. Herbicides eliminated weeds without endless hoeing. Pesticides protected harvests from insects that had plagued humanity since the beginning of agriculture. Fungicides saved crops from blights that once caused famines. These tools were powerful, sometimes too powerful, and their overuse would later spark debates about environmental and health impacts. Still, the results were undeniable. Global food production soared. Between 1960 and 2000, the world's population doubled, but food production tripled. Famine, once a regular visitor to human civilization, began retreating. The Green Revolution saved an estimated 1 billion people from starvation. It proved that science could reshape the limits of nature, the chemical and biological frontier. As mechanization and high-yield seeds spread, science dug deeper into the biological foundations of farming. Understanding soil chemistry became essential. Farmers learned that soil wasn't just dirt. It was a living ecosystem. Microbes, fungi, and organic matter all played roles in plant health. The rise of soil testing allowed farmers to measure pH levels, nutrient content, and adjust inputs with precision previously unimaginable. Fertilizer use exploded. Synthetic nitrogen, created through the Haber-Bosch process, became the backbone of modern agriculture. This single invention allowed humanity to convert atmospheric nitrogen into plant food at industrial scales. Some scientists argue it's the most important invention of the 20th century because it supports nearly half the global population today. But chemistry was a double-edged tool. Overuse of fertilizers led to nutrient runoff, polluting rivers, and creating dead zones in oceans. Pesticides, while protecting crops, sometimes harmed beneficial insects, birds, and even human health. The environmental costs of industrial agriculture became impossible to ignore by the 1970s and 1980s. Rachel Carson's Silent Spring rang alarm bells that still echo today. Farmers and scientists began searching for balance. Integrated pest management emerged, combining biological controls, crop rotation, and minimal chemical use. Organic farming gained traction as consumers demanded food grown without synthetic inputs. The conversation shifted from how much can we produce to how can we produce sustainably. Genetic science opened new frontiers. By the 1990s, genetically modified crops entered fields. Corn engineered to resist pests, soybeans tolerant to herbicides, cotton that produced its own insecticide. These crops promised reduced chemical use and higher yields. They also sparked fierce debates about safety, corporate control of seeds, and the ethics of altering nature's blueprint. Regardless of where one stands on GMOs, their impact is undeniable. Today, over 90% of soybeans and corn grown in the United States are genetically modified. Farmers adopted them because they worked. They reduced labor, cut costs, and simplified management. Science had moved from chemistry to genetics, rewriting DNA itself to serve human needs. The data-driven present. Now we arrive at today. Modern farming looks nothing like the fields of 1925 or even 1985. Walk onto a contemporary farm and you'll find technology everywhere. GPS-guided tractors plant seeds with centimeter precision. Drones fly overhead, capturing multispectral images of crop health. Sensors buried in soil transmit moisture levels to smartphones in real time. This is precision agriculture. Instead of treating an entire field the same, farmers now manage variability. One section might need more water. Another requires extra nitrogen. A third is battling early signs of disease. Data reveals these differences, and automated systems respond. Variable rate technology allows machines to adjust seed density, fertilizer application, and water delivery on the fly, optimizing every square meter. The scale of data is staggering. A single farm can generate terabytes of information each season. Satellite imagery, weather predictions, soil sensors, yield monitors on harvesters, and market price fluctuations all feed into farm management software. Algorithms analyze patterns humans could never spot. They predict optimal planting dates, forecast pest outbreaks, and recommend harvest timing to maximize profit. Automation is accelerating. Robotic milkers handle dairy herds without human touch. Autonomous tractors plow fields through the night. AI-powered cameras identify weeds and trigger precise herbicide sprays, reducing chemical use by up to 90% compared to blanket applications. Vertical farms in cities grow lettuce under LED lights with 95% less water than traditional fields. This technological leap is democratizing knowledge. A farmer in Kenya with a smartphone can access the same satellite data and weather models as a corporate farm in Iowa. Apps provide soil health recommendations, pest identification, and market prices instantly. The isolation that defined early 20th century farming has shattered. Information flows globally in seconds. But technology also concentrates power. The companies providing seeds, chemicals, machinery, and data platforms wield enormous influence. Small farmers worry about dependence on corporations for everything from patented seeds to software subscriptions. The digital divide means those without access to technology risk being left behind in an increasingly data-driven industry. Lessons from a century of transformation. So what does this 100-year journey teach us? First, that necessity drives innovation. Every major shift in farming came from urgent need. Mechanization arose because labor was scarce and expensive. The Green Revolution responded to famine. Precision agriculture emerged as environmental limits became clear and margins tightened. Second, every solution creates new challenges. Tractors increased productivity but pushed people off the land. Fertilizers boosted yields but polluted waterways. Pesticides protected harvests but harmed ecosystems. Technology offers precision but risks concentrating control. Progress is never purely positive. It's a negotiation with trade-offs. Third, farming is fundamentally about managing complex living systems. Soil, plants, insects, weather, and markets all interact in ways we're still learning to understand. The most successful approaches balance productivity with resilience. Monocultures produce massive yields but collapse when disease strikes. Diverse systems yield less per crop but survive shocks better. Fourth, knowledge sharing accelerates progress. The Green Revolution succeeded because scientists shared seeds and techniques globally. Today's precision agriculture spreads through open-source software and farmer networks. When information flows freely, everyone benefits. When it's locked behind patents and paywalls, inequality grows. Finally, farming must evolve continuously. The past century proved agriculture can feed billions. The next century asks if it can do so sustainably, equitably, and in the face of climate change. The challenges ahead are different, but no less urgent than those of 1925. Looking forward, the next 100 years of farming will be shaped by three massive forces: climate change, population growth, and resource scarcity. By 2125, Earth may hold 11 billion people. Feeding them will require producing more food with less land, less water, and lower emissions. Technology will play a role. Artificial intelligence, robotics, and biotechnology will push boundaries we can barely imagine today. But technology alone won't be enough. We'll need new economic models that value ecosystem health alongside productivity. Policies that support small farmers while enabling innovation. Education systems that train the next generation of agricultural scientists and practitioners. We'll likely see farming move in multiple directions simultaneously. Industrial-scale operations will grow more precise and automated. Urban and vertical farms will supplement traditional agriculture in cities. Regenerative practices that rebuild soil health and capture carbon will gain ground. Gene editing will create crops adapted to hotter, drier climates. The past century taught us that farming can transform rapidly when pressured by need and empowered by knowledge. The next century will test whether we can transform wisely, learning from past mistakes while embracing necessary innovation. Food security, environmental sustainability, and social equity must advance together, not in competition. History shows that farming always adapts. The question isn't whether agriculture will change in the next 100 years. It's whether those changes will nourish both people and planet or simply repeat old patterns with new tools. Recap. In one century, farming evolved from horse-drawn plows to satellite-guided robots. Mechanization multiplied what one person could accomplish. The Green Revolution used science to feed billions. Chemistry and genetics pushed yields to unprecedented heights. Today, data and automation are rewriting the rules again. Each transformation brought progress and problems, abundance and trade-offs. The lessons are clear. Innovation arises from necessity. Every solution creates new challenges. Farming is about managing complexity, not conquering nature. Knowledge sharing accelerates progress, and continuous evolution is the only constant. The next 100 years will demand even more from agriculture. Climate change, population growth, and resource limits are converging. The path forward requires learning from the past, embracing innovation thoughtfully, and remembering that feeding humanity sustainably is the ultimate goal. If you found this journey through farming's past century valuable, give this video a like and share it with anyone curious about where our food comes from. Subscribe to Farmtips Diary for more deep explorations of agriculture's biggest questions, and hit that notification bell so you never miss our next story. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.